The war on drugs in Venezuela is escalating. The U.S. is no longer relying on symbolic shows of force. Operations now feature drone strikes, satellite-guided missiles, elite special forces raids, and even the devastating mother of all bombs. Once untouchable cartel compounds are being erased in coordinated assaults. But what happens when such overwhelming firepower is unleashed? And how would cartels react if the U.S. dropped another MOAB from its B-2 Spirit bombers? The United States first made history by using the GBU-43, the massive ordnance air blast bomb, better known as the mother of all bombs. Weighing over 21,000 pounds, it was pushed from the rear of a U.S. Air Force MC-130 Special Operations aircraft over Afghanistan's Nangarhar province. The target, a network of tunnels and caves used by ISIS-K. The detonation shook the entire region, killing at least 94 fighters and collapsing their underground stronghold. The strike sent a powerful message. Under President Donald Trump, the U.S. was willing to use its deadliest non-nuclear weapon without hesitation. North Korea and other adversaries took notice. Now imagine that same level of firepower turned on drug cartels. Hidden labs, warehouses, and smuggling tunnels, just like terrorist networks, could be obliterated in seconds. The cartel's power built on fear and secrecy would crumble under the realization that no bunker or jungle hideout can withstand such force. But the MOAB wasn't just designed for destruction. It was also psychological warfare. Its existence alone told enemies that America could innovate quickly and strike with unprecedented power. Retired Air Force General T. Michael Buzz Mosley explained that the MOAB wasn't only about the blast. It was about the message. The U.S. is willing to unleash overwhelming force when necessary. The MOAB explodes above ground, spreading its destruction over a wide area, flattening everything in its path. In contrast, the massive ordnance penetrator, the U.S. military's true bunker buster, was built to pierce reinforced concrete and strike underground command posts. The MOAB tips the scales at 22,000 pounds, with nearly 18,000 pounds of high explosives, unleashing the power of 11 tons of TNT. The MOP is heavier at 33,000 pounds, but carries a smaller explosive payload, built for precision penetration instead of wide-area devastation. Only about 15 MOABs were ever built, and restarting production today would be costly and complex. Yet the weapon's legacy remains, part physical destruction, part psychological dominance. If the same firepower once used against ISIS were unleashed on the cartels, the war on drugs might look very different, swift, decisive, and devastating. Bulk is what allows it to punch deep into the earth before detonating, destroying underground facilities that normal bombs could never reach. The MOAB, by contrast, is designed to devastate everything above ground or in shallow tunnels with overwhelming shockwaves. It's not about precision burrowing. It's about unleashing fear and firepower in one enormous strike. Deployment is another key difference. The MOAB is pushed out of the back of a cargo plane, specifically a C-130 aircraft, and once released, it uses its fins to guide itself toward the target. The MOP, however, is far more advanced. It is GPS-guided and designed to be carried by stealth bombers, such as the B-2 Spirit. This gives it the ability to penetrate defended airspace and deliver its deep-striking payload with pinpoint accuracy. Despite this capability, the MOP has never been used in combat. While the MOAB made headlines when it was dropped in Afghanistan in 2017 against ISIS-K fighters hiding in caves, military leaders have praised the thinking behind these weapons. Retired Air Force General T. Michael Buzz Mosley once explained that using the MOAB in Afghanistan was a brilliant move given the target. According to him, commanders spent enormous amounts of time weighing the risks of collateral damage and blast effects. The MOAB, despite its size, was chosen carefully because it was the right tool for the job. Massive enough to collapse tunnel systems, but deployed in a way that limited unnecessary destruction. For military enthusiasts, both the MOAB and MOP represent the extremes of conventional warfare. The MOAB is a psychological weapon as much as it is a physical one. Its detonation shakes not just the ground but also the confidence of anyone on the receiving end. The MOP, by contrast, is a symbol of precision and stealth designed to remind adversaries that even the deepest bunker is not beyond America's reach. When the Air Force dropped the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan, many people immediately wondered about the price tag of such a massive weapon. Surprisingly, the cost of one MOAB is far lower than most advanced missiles. According to the Air Force, each bomb is valued at around $170,000 for a weapon weighing more than 21,000 pounds and unleashing the force of 11 tons of TNT. That figure sounds almost like a bargain, but there's a catch. That price is not a modern production cost. It is a historical estimate from the mid-2000s. A defense official later explained that this figure was never the result of a traditional procurement program. Instead, it came from rough calculations made by an expert at the Air Force Research Laboratory, one of the original developers of the weapon. Much of the MOAB's cost was based on spare materials that were already available, such as the bomb's casing and metals. In short, it was pieced together from what the Air Force had on hand, not manufactured through a large-scale contract. Because of this, the MOAB does not have a standard price in Pentagon budget documents. Unlike fighter jets or precision missiles, it was not part of a typical research, development, and acquisition pipeline. Air Force spokeswoman Erica Yepson once clarified that the bombs were developed, built, and tested entirely in-house. No outside research was contracted, and that meant no official procurement cost was logged in the usual way. Still, the MOAB did involve some outside expertise. One of the most crucial parts of the weapon is its grid fin technology, which allows the bomb to steer itself with surprising accuracy. These lattice-style fins can guide the bomb to within less than 8 m of its intended target, remarkable for a weapon of its size. The Pentagon brought in Dynetics Incorporated, a Huntsville, Alabama-based defense company, to help design this feature. According to a 2014 report submitted to the Senate Appropriations Committee, the Air Force officials first approached Dynetics in 2002 with a $35,000 contract to start developing the FIN concept. That modest investment produced one of the program's key innovations, grid fins that let the bomb steer through the air. Rather than free-falling, the weapon could glide and correct its path toward the target after release from a cargo plane. Dynetics has been quiet about its role. A company spokeswoman declined to comment on the fins and referred questions to U.S. Central Command. Even Air Force officials weren't sure whether the estimated per bomb cost included the FIN technology. That uncertainty underscores how unusual the MOAB program was, less a standard acquisition and more a bespoke project created for a specific wartime need. Another mystery is how many MOABs exist. Officials have never published an exact number, though reports put the stockpile at about 15, locations classified. An auditor could estimate each bomb's value by adding materials, labor, and upgrades, but the Air Force has kept those figures private. For military enthusiasts, the MOAB's backstory is part of its appeal. It's legendary not only for its explosive power, but because it was essentially a Frankenstein weapon, built from spare parts, creative fin technology, and fast in-house development. Designed for a single mission in Afghanistan to collapse caves and strike fear into enemies, it accomplished that goal. Its low cost and unconventional origin add to its mystique. Still, questions linger about how often the MOAB would be used. Cost is one factor. The bomb is estimated at about $170,000 each. While far cheaper than some advanced missiles, experts note other weapons can match or exceed its explosive force. For example, a B-2 can carry a payload of many bombs whose combined effect rivals a single MOAB. Supply is another constraint. The Air Force built a small number in the early 2000s from spare parts specifically for the Afghanistan campaign, so replacing them isn't easy. Commanders will likely reserve them for high-value, exceptional missions. By contrast, the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, MOP, program cost far more. Between 2009 and 2017, the Air Force budgeted over $572 million for R&D and about $43 million for procurement of 28 bombs, more than $21 million per bomb, a staggering difference from the MOAB's estimated price. When the MOAB was used against drug cartel targets, observers asked whether cartels could withstand such a weapon. Retired General T. Michael Mosley suggested timing mattered. The decision to employ the MOAB depended on the situation on the ground, the right location, the right enemy concentration, and the right moment to maximize impact. Critics wondered why the MOAB was chosen instead of options like a B-52 strike. A B-52 can drop more than 5,750 pounds bombs, whose combined destruction is comparable to one MOAB and offers tactical flexibility. Experts argued the choice wasn't about showing off the largest bomb, but selecting the right munition for the target. For caves and underground labs, the MOAB's blast penetrates deeply, collapsing tunnels and destroying hidden operations smaller bombs might miss. The strike also sent a psychological message. Using the mother of all bombs signals overwhelming capability and aims to deter. Itself evokes unstoppable force, projecting fear before impact and suggesting no place, even underground, is safe. Debate continues. Critics say precise, smaller strikes could accomplish the mission without such a spectacle. Supporters counter that the MOAB both destroys hardened targets and warns that underground expansion won't be tolerated. Either way, deploying the MOAB reveals how far the U.S. is willing to go in the fight against organized crime. For the cartels, the message is stark. Their reliance on secrecy, tunnels, and hidden labs is suddenly more fragile. No bunker may be entirely safe. The real question now is whether they can adapt quickly, or if this marks a turning point where their underground world becomes vulnerable.